Hi everyone, and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
So Mike, have you ever visited New Orleans?
I have never been to New Orleans, New Orleans. There's a lot of ways to say this place, but however you say it, I have never been there, but I've always wanted to go.
So it is on your list of places to visit?
It would definitely be in the top 3 places to visit in America.
Oh, in America?
Yeah.
So where else is on your list?
In America?
Oh, in anywhere.
Let's see, where would I want? Turkey. I was just watching a television show about Turkey the other day, and I thought, I gotta go to Turkey soon.
Right.
So those are some other good places, but very different. If you're going to New Orleans, you're going there for the jazz, the culture, the food, the
music
vibe.
And food.
Turkey, well, the food's good, but not a lot of jazz in Turkey.
Right.
Probably.
I've heard it's got some great beach areas.
Turkey or New Orleans?
Turkey.
Turkey does, yes.
Right.
And a lot of Greek ruins,
Yeah.
which New Orleans does not have.
Okay.
Let's talk about New Orleans, though.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out a lot about it. It's a city, it's in America,
Yes.
it's right down on the south coast, in that sort of on the Caribbean Sea, which is all sort of in between Mexico and the top of South America, bottom of North America. It's got a reputation for being a really fun place, strong music association. A lot of people go there, you know, for a bit of a party to kind of really have a good time. And we'll kind of get into that in the first part of today's article for some of the things you can see in New Orleans. Let's read through it.
Reading.
Let the good times roll in New Orleans. While riding on a streetcar, you admire European-style buildings and hear a lively jazz marching band go by. There are people everywhere, enjoying the city's entertainment and unique food. You're in New Orleans, a charming city nicknamed the Big Easy for its laid-back way of life. New Orleans, Louisiana was founded in 1718 as a French colony and later became a Spanish one. It became a U.S. territory in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase. As a southern port city in North America, it played an important role in the African slave trade. Despite this, New Orleans also had the biggest and wealthiest community of free black people in the nation. A combination of European, African, and Latin American cultures influenced the city's buildings, food, customs, and music. The heart of New Orleans is the French Quarter, home to many bars and restaurants. Near a historic park, Jackson Square, there's St. Louis Cathedral, the oldest of its kind in North America. Be sure to see the Cabildo, the Spanish colonial city hall, which is now part of the Louisiana State Museum. To take a break from city life, enjoy a swamp boat tour and see the area's famous alligators.
So the article begins with a kind of a description of what you might expect to see and experience while you're in New Orleans. Or New Orleans, or as Mike and I were just talking off camera, there are many different ways to say it.
It's true.
Okay, it says, while riding on a streetcar, you admire European-style buildings and hear a lively jazz marching band go by. So a streetcar, I guess it's kind of like an electric car that goes around on a track. I think in the UK we call these trams. I think they're pretty similar.
Yeah, something like that. It's kind of like a bus, but kind of like a train.
Yeah.
But it runs on tracks through the city streets. San Francisco, of course, is famous for its
Toronto,
streetcars.
I believe, has
They
some.
have some there, too.
Yeah.
And even like those double-decker electric buses they sort of have in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You could call that a streetcar.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I know the ones you mean. Well, in that sentence, we also saw the verb admire, to admire something. Someone is admiring these buildings. If you admire something, you look up to it, you appreciate it, you like it a lot, and you think, wow, this thing is really good. You want to see it, that kind of thing. So there's different ways. You could admire a person and think that person's great, I want to be like them.
Like hero or an idol or someone like that.
But you could also admire something by looking at it and thinking like, wow, that's great.
It's attractive.
It's beautiful.
Good to look at.
I want to spend some time seeing it. Like in this example sentence, we went to the beach to admire the beautiful sunset.
Okay. So in that case, we're not saying, oh, the sunset is so smart and went to such good schools and has such a great... No, we're not admiring the sunset like we would admire a person.
Right.
But it's beautiful. It's attractive. You might take a picture of it if you admire it in that kind of way. And we also had this other adjective, lively. Lively is active. It's full of fun. It's full of life. It's not boring or dull or listless, to use a nice word. Lively is the opposite. It's full of energy. It's energetic. That might be another word we could use that's very similar. For example, there was a lively sound coming from the restaurant. So obviously there's a lot of people there. Maybe they're having a party. You can hear people laughing and hear, maybe music playing. So it's obviously a place where there's a lot of activity and probably a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yep, and one of the fun things you'll see in New Orleans is a jazz band, a marching jazz band playing music, walking down the street. And they, as we say in the article, they might be going by. To go by means to pass by, to move from one place to another, such as along a street or through the air. We could talk about planes passing by, cars passing by, and so on. And generally, you're stationary and they are moving, and that's why they seem like they're going by. We could also talk about time going by, which means the time is passing.
Absolutely. All right, so there we are. We're on our little streetcar. We're looking at these beautiful European-style buildings, very old-style buildings, which for a younger country like America is kind of unusual, right? They don't have a lot of older buildings there, like in Europe, say. And this lively jazz band is going by. And as we continue to look out from the tram, we read, there are people everywhere enjoying the city's entertainment and unique food. So I'm getting from this sentence the feeling that it's not just the jazz band that's lively, it's the whole city around me. It's the whole atmosphere or scene that's all around me. Of course, lots of people makes it lively, the entertainment makes it lively, and if you have unique, delicious food, that puts people in a good mood, and they'll be lively too. So let's have a look at some of our vocab from that last sentence. All right, so yes, we talked about the entertainment that was also going around. Lively is a word we often use with entertainment, but entertainment, of course, is a noun. What is entertainment? It's an event, it's an activity, something you do, maybe something you're watching, a performance, but it's all done for pleasure and for fun. All right, it's not serious, it's not something that you're gonna have to really concentrate on a lot probably, because it's just for fun. It's something you do in your free time, something you do as a hobby, a pastime, or simply for pleasure and enjoyment. For some people, entertainment might be sitting quietly and reading a book or listening to a podcast on their phone or something. For others, entertainment might be rock climbing or playing extreme sports or just hanging out with their friends and just doing not much. But you're doing it for fun, you're doing it for pleasure, and you do it in your free time probably. For example, lots of visitors go to Las Vegas for the entertainment and not the gambling. Yeah, they have shows there, magic shows, comedy shows, circus shows, that kind of thing would definitely be entertainment.
So we've had this description. Now let's get into where we are. You're in New Orleans, or New Orleans as the article says, a charming city nicknamed the Big Easy for its laid-back way of life. So here we're using the word nickname as a verb. As a noun, a nickname is somebody's nickname. It's the name that a lot of people, maybe friends and family members, give them as a sort of a fun way to call them. But if you use this word as a verb, then somebody is giving you that nickname. Somebody's basically picking it out for you. So the Big Easy is a common name that people know New Orleans by. It's like New York is the Big Apple, would be another nickname for something like that. Chicago, I believe, the Windy City?
The Windy City, or the City of Big Shoulders.
Right, interesting. Okay, here's an example sentence for nickname as a verb. He was nicknamed Darwin in high school because of his love of science. That's the name people, hey, Darwin, how's it going, Darwin? Something like that. You got a nickname?
Darwin being a famous scientist. My blues nickname is Steel Fingers.
Nice.
Because I break a lot of strings on my guitar.
Oh, that is a superb nickname, though.
It's an okay nickname,
That's
but
amazing.
it's expensive breaking strings, so maybe it's not the best nickname for
Who nicknamed you that
pocketbook.
using the verb?
The guys in the blues band.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet.
There you go.
Now, we said New Orleans was laid back.
Yes, it's laid back. It's the big easy, right? It gives you that feeling that life is easy. There's no rush, there's no hurry. People really just enjoy life. They don't stress out too much. And if you enjoy life and you're not stressed out, you might be described as being a laid-back kind of person. We can also have a laid-back day or a laid-back event. It means it's relaxed, it's not formal, it's not fancy. If you're a laid-back person, you're very easygoing. You don't get stressed out and worried all the time. You're like, whatever happens, happens. I don't mind too much, all right? So a laid-back person kind of takes life as it comes, and they don't worry if things don't work out exactly. It's a nice way to go about things. In certain areas, I wouldn't want a laid-back airplane pilot.
No.
Or a laid-back doctor doing a surgery on my body.
True.
But if you're on holiday and you're laid back, that's perfectly
That's
fine.
perfect.
That's what you should be doing. So let's find out more about New Orleans, one of the most unique cities in all of America. It says New Orleans, Louisiana, that's the state that it is found in, was founded in 1718 as a French colony and later became a Spanish one. Wow,
Okay.
So this explains some of this European influence we talked about in some of the building styles. Before the Americans came along, before the British came along, it started off being fairly French and then kind of Spanish. And so all these cultures over the years have mixed together in this very unique city.
Of course, it's Orleans, isn't it, in France? Is
It
the name
is.
of it. So Orleans is a French city, so New Orleans, or New Orleans, would be the new version of the city. So you can see where the name comes from. So let's carry on with the history of the city. It became a US territory in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase. Now, I quickly looked this up. The Louisiana Purchase is when the US bought Louisiana from France for $15 million US. Back then, that was going to be a lot more than it is now.
That right, yeah.
In fact, a lot of land was bought at the same time, including parts of Texas and even areas of Canada.
Absolutely. Napoleon was fighting a big war over in Europe. He didn't need to worry about this American territory. He needed cash. So he sold it to the Americans. A pretty good deal.
Yeah.
You know, like buying Alaska from the Russians for $8 million.
Yeah.
Or, you know, buying Manhattan Island for even less.
Yeah, from the Dutch.
Back in the old days, if you had the vision and a little bit of money in your pocket, you could make history.
So the article continues, as a southern port city in North America, it played an important role in the African slave trade. Of course, there were a lot of slaves, they came from Africa, and they all came in through ports.
That's right. And of course, New Orleans sits at the mouth of the Mississippi River, which is a way to get into the middle of America back in the days before roads. So that's why it was an important port city. All right, let's pause here to look at one of our interesting phrases. So we mentioned how New Orleans as a port city played a role in the American slave trade back in the old days. To play a role in something is to be part of something, to take part in something, to be involved in something, all right? So we can talk about people playing a role, all right? All the players on a baseball team play a role in the team having success and winning games, right? The pitchers throw the ball, the fielders catch, the good batters will put the runs on the board. They all have their jobs. They all contribute something to the group. We can also talk about a thing or an idea playing a role. If you're planning a good party, a lot of things will play a role in planning a successful party. Having the right mix of people, having good food, music and entertainment, all of these things put together are involved in the success of something. They're all involved in playing a role. So a lot of things were involved in the American slave trade, but of course New Orleans being a big port city, it played a role as a place where the boats arrived in America. All right, let's get back to our article. Anyways, back to New Orleans now becoming part of America. It said, despite this, New Orleans also had the biggest and wealthiest community of free black people in the nation. Yeah, a little surprising that a place where slaves would arrive would also have some of the richest black people in all of America, but that was the complicated situation there, especially over the years as black people were brought to America, stayed there, had children and grandchildren. Those people eventually opened businesses and became wealthy in their own way. So along with the bad, the slave trade being a part of this city's history, came the good, this sort of middle and upper class black culture that developed out of it and led to many other cultural developments.
Yep. Now let's have a quick look at today's grammar point. So in that last sentence, we used the word despite to show a contrast. The US buys this area, and the US back then made black people slaves, so you'd expect all the black people in Louisiana to be slaves. However, this wasn't the case. Now, in this phrase, despite this is a pronoun for the sentence that came before. It's like saying, despite this fact. We use despite to show contrasts of all kinds. For example, despite the cold weather, we still played baseball outside. Or, despite the high prices of the food in the restaurant, the meal actually wasn't very tasty. We can also use in spite of in the same way as despite. So in our article, we could say, in spite of this, New Orleans had the biggest and wealthiest community of free black people in the nation. And another example, in spite of the cold weather, we still played baseball outside. Whichever phrase you're using, you're showing a contrast.
All right, so yeah, let's look at this sort of cultural mix that came together and made New Orleans so special. It says a combination of European, so we already saw the French, Spanish, British, that would be European, African, of course, coming with the slaves from Africa. They brought their culture, and Latin American cultures. Yeah, that's true. New Orleans is on the north end of the Gulf of Mexico, right near the Caribbean island. Cuba is not too far away, and that, of course, brought in the Latin American culture. So a combination of European, African, and Latin American cultures influenced the city's food, customs, and music.
Buildings, food, custom, and
buildings,
music.
Food, customs, and music. So we had the French-style buildings, right? The food is probably fairly Caribbean and African. Some of the customs, well, they used to have the fancy sort of Spanish balls and things like that.
Okay.
And music all came together to create what we today call a jazz.
So there we look to the word combination.
A combination. Now, a combination is a blend. It's a mixture. It's when you take things that are normally separate and exist on their own, but you bring them together, mix them together to create something completely new and different, all right? The simplest thing to think of is a combination. You get some coffee, you get some milk, you put the milk in the coffee, you stir it, now you got milky coffee, all right? So you can have milk, you can have coffee, but if you mix them together, it creates this thing that's not milk, it's not coffee, it's a new thing. It's a combination of the two. And we have another example. This drink is a combination of apple and pineapple juice. Well, that would be quite good. Some combinations might not work. Orange and carrot juice.
No,
I'm not sure that. Or milk and lemon juice.
Oh dear.
No, don't. That's the bad combination.
So let's look at some examples of this combination. The article says, the heart of New Orleans is the French Quarter, home to many bars and restaurants.
Absolutely. If you're a tourist, you will definitely go to the French Quarter, probably on the first day you're there. And not far away, it says, near a historic park, Jackson Square, there's St. Louis Cathedral, or St. Louis Cathedral, the oldest of its kind in North America. Of course, this was probably built by the French, building cathedrals 300 years ago. If something is old and important to history, if it's 300 years old and the first building of its kind in the country, for example, that would be a good reason to call it historic. The adjective historic means important to history, all right? Probably in a special, unique way. It could be historic in your own family, but we usually use this to talk about things that might be found in museums or somewhere like that. Something historic would be old. It would be probably important in some kind of way for the study of history or for human culture and development. And it's also probably something that even today, people are still interested in learning about or seeing or being near or something like that. For example, Florence, Italy is home to many historic buildings and works of art. It's the heart of the Renaissance, and of course that's a famous historic time in Italy.
And here's another example from New Orleans.
Okay.
Be sure to see the Cabildo, the Spanish colonial city hall, which is now part of the Louisiana State Museum.
Ooh.
Colonial refers to the time when a place was a colony. They were controlled by a larger country or empire. So there were colonies all over the world, from the French colonies, English, Spanish, even from some German and Portuguese colonies. And colonial times, a colonial city hall means from that time, from that era. Okay, so what else have we got in New Orleans?
Well, now we've walked around the downtown area and seen a lot of the historic sites to see. Next, we move on to its reading. To take a break from city life, enjoy a swamp boat tour and see the area's famous alligators.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. New Orleans is, as we said, at the end of the Mississippi River, the Mississippi Delta. Actually, and a delta is an area where a river kind of breaks up and goes over this very low land, and where you have water and low land and it's hot and there's probably a lot of mosquitoes and alligators. That type of area we would describe as a swamp. Okay, it's half water, half land. You probably need a boat, but not a deep boat. You can't really walk through it because your feet will get stuck in the mud. And as I said, it's probably hot and there's mosquitoes and stuff like that. But it is very common in the southern U.S., around New Orleans, in the southern part of Florida. Places like that, you will find swamp areas. And one of the creatures in the swamp would be the
alligator.
Oh, yeah.
So an alligator is a lizard, very similar to a crocodile, slightly different face, and they can grow extremely large, several meters long. And they can also be dangerous as they eat meat, but we can eat them too, and I think I have at one point, so, fair's fair. We often call these creatures gators for sure. They won't say it's an alligator, they'll say it's a gator.
That's right, absolutely. And they're mainly found in the southern U.S.
Right.
or part around the Caribbean, places like that.
So that is half of New Orleans, or some of New Orleans. We'll see some more tomorrow, but now we'll go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the question is, which famous sites have you seen while traveling?
Oh.
Just reel off a list here. The Eiffel Tower. I've seen that.
Okay, the Parthenon and Acropolis in Athens, Greece.
Cool. Hobbiton in New Zealand.
Ooh, okay. The Statue of Liberty.
Empire State Building.
Did you say the Eiffel Tower?
I did.
Oh, Tokyo Tower.
Oh, I have seen... I'm running out of, I'm sure I've seen more, but I'm just running out of ideas there, and we're running out of time.
Oh, well.
We'll talk to you again tomorrow and learn more about New Orleans. See you then. Bye for now.
Let the good times roll in New Orleans. While riding on a streetcar, you admire European-style buildings and hear a lively jazz marching band go by. There are people everywhere, enjoying the city's entertainment and unique food. You're in New Orleans, a charming city nicknamed the Big Easy for its laid-back way of life. New Orleans, Louisiana was founded in 1718 as a French colony and later became a Spanish one. It became a U.S. territory in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase. As a southern port city in North America, it played an important role in the African slave trade. Despite this, New Orleans also had the biggest and wealthiest community of free black people in the nation. A combination of European, African, and Latin American cultures influenced the city's buildings, food, customs, and music. The heart of New Orleans is the French Quarter, home to many bars and restaurants. Near a historic park, Jackson Square, there's St. Louis Cathedral, the oldest of its kind in North America. Be sure to see the Cabildo, the Spanish colonial city hall, which is now part of the Louisiana State Museum. To take a break from city life, enjoy a swamp boat tour and see the area's famous alligators.
Vocabulary Review.
Admire. As I stood at the edge of Tarraco Gorge, I looked around and admired the beautiful view. Lively. There was a lot of music and beautiful dancing in the lively stage show. Entertainment. Veronica bought tickets to an expensive concert, though her father wished she didn't spend so much on entertainment. Nickname. Tracy's family nicknamed her Apple because of her bright red hair. Combination. The best passwords are a combination of letters, numbers, and special symbols. Historic. Madeline visited the historic Grand Palace in Bangkok, the home of Thailand's kings since 1782.
智慧小补帖
Laid back. Colonial. Swamp. Alligator.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net